Okay, welcome to the Glide Agency podcast. I'm your host, Chandra, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about sustainable marketing with Jacqui Kay. Jacqui, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for coming in. So, Jacqui, I'd just like you to introduce yourself to the audience so that they get to know who you are and a bit about your background. So,
So I started my career in Melbourne in FMCG, straight out of uni pretty much, and went into sort of large FMCG companies, range of roles sort of through kind of a graduate type arrangement where you sales, analysts, but ended up in marketing, and then moved here for an opportunity for my husband, and then an opportunity at Brown's Dairy came up. The dairy industry is an industry I'd worked in quite a lot and something that I'm really passionate about. I grew up in Tasmania, so I had a lot of dairy around me, rolling hills, lots of farms. So it's something that I love, I'm really passionate about, and also the nutritional side of it is something that as a mum you become more passionate about as well.
So you were kind of like quite involved in the environment as well.
Yeah.
In Tasmania, you grew up in the farm.
I grew up in the west of Tasmania, so it's very wild. It's very remote. It's very isolated. The small town I grew up in had no traffic lights, nothing. It was 400 people. So yeah, incredible freedom, amazing to just go off into the bush whenever you wanted, because what was the worst that was going to happen. But yeah.
Is there traffic lights there now?
No,
still not.
No.
Wow, that is really
no.
Remote. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, but it was an amazing way of life, and it makes you really passionate about sustainability and trying to preserve that wilderness for future generations. We've got one planet, we need to look after it.
Love it. Okay, cool. So just before we get into the sustainable marketing and stuff, I just wanted to kind of maybe paint a picture about where Browns has been in the last couple of years, and I think there's been some pivoting in the brand.
Yep. So community is a really core pillar for our business and really a strong part of our values. We've been in the WA community since 1886. We're Australia's oldest dairy, and it means that we're very much part of people's lives. They open the fridge every day and they see our brand, and they've been doing that for a very long time. So many people remember coming to Brown's Dairy on a school tour when they were a child. They remember having milk delivered to them when they were younger. They remember having milk at school. So it's very much something that people have grown up with here in WA, and we're very conscious of that, and we want to make sure that we continue to build and grow that brand community connection. Yep.
No, that's beautiful. Yeah. I know my son doesn't like it when there's no full cream milk in the fridge. So
no, why would
especially in the morning. So I've got to keep that going.
And so as part of that, when COVID hit, it was really important for us to be able to service the community. And I guess COVID and lockdowns meant that there were a lot of people in the community who didn't want to leave their houses for whatever reason, for health reasons, and they didn't feel comfortable going down to the supermarket, and there was a lot of strain on the delivery networks from the supermarkets themselves. So there was an opportunity for us to service the community directly through a delivery service of our own, which kind of is almost a step back in time in terms of like the milk delivery man.
Yeah.
And but
Milkman
obviously
came back basically.
Yeah,
right.
the Milko Man came back, and it is something that now obviously runs quite differently. It's digitally enabled, and you can order via the internet, which clearly wasn't the case 60 years ago. But it's an amazing way for us to pivot, but in a really familiar way for our consumers.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about it a few times in this podcast about brands that have come through that period of lockdowns and stuff. But I think consumers just got it just got easier to go online and order and subscribe to something where they just know that something's going to be in coming on a regular basis. So that's been quite a shift in consumer behaviour in the last sort of couple of years, and people are just very comfortable with that now. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the really big surprise for us, because I mean, when it first started, it was literally like everyone from out of the office, we're going out and we're delivering milk now. We've got vans and we're all driving out, and it was amazing the personal connection you got with people when you delivered. Like it was old people, it was families, it was people who weren't able to leave the house for health reasons, and they were just so appreciative and so warm and loving and wanted to talk to you and engage with you, because I mean a lot of people were isolated during that period. And amazing, like the different types of consumers who now get online and do order, and it's everyone now. It's not just young people.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you would think it's digital, it's online, and it's not much interaction. But in actual fact, it's actually more human now, because
100%.
you're solving problems. And you're coming out to people that can't get to the shop.
Yeah.
So you're kind of creating convenience as well, and building relationships and community.
We got letters and pictures, and people were baking us cookies, and it was incredible. The community response was incredible. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I mean, then that just means that you're doing something right.
Yeah.
So
100%.
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that brand is continuing to grow and so forth.
100%.
Did you have like a reusable component as part of the Milko thing?
Not at the moment, no.
Yeah.
So that is something, obviously, like that was the traditional Milko style model with the glass milk bottles. I guess the food industry, food safety, all that sort of thing has evolved quite a lot in the last 60 years. So, what you could do then and what you can do now are quite different. And I guess it's really something, as a passion project, we are trying to get off the ground, but it will look quite different to what it did back in the day. It's going to be a different model. It probably won't be glass, it'll be something else, but it's certainly something that's the holy grail from a sustainability perspective, right? Is this reusability rather than having to recycle, reuse and reduce is the holy grail.
Yeah. Awesome. So that kind of goes into the next topic, which is around how Browns is working with those environmental, sort of challenges, I guess.
Obviously. Sustainability, again, is a really big pillar of our strategy. It's so important to consumers these days, and they look to brands to help them solve this problem. And
that's across all your categories.
100%.
That's right,
yeah. So,
which is what I like.
And
that story.
Sustainability is such a broad area. So it covers, the entire supply chain. So it starts with your farmers. It then moves through to your packaging suppliers and your transport, your back end processes. Your packaging of the products, and then out to consumers, and then even how you talk to them as well.
And the products themselves, like how they're actually produced and where you source the ingredients from and things like
100%,
that.
100%, And I mean, we're so lucky in that we are predominantly locally sourced. Like obviously there's, the odd ingredient that we can't get locally, but, the vast majority of our product is milk that is locally sourced. So that's a great thing for sustainability. We are working really, really hard with our suppliers to try and push the envelope in terms of what's available from a packaging perspective. And that is not just about recyclability. Recyclability is one part of that. And I know that's very tangible for consumers, and it's really important because they like to be able to feel they're contributing by putting something in the yellow lidded bin. But it's more than that. It's got to start further back. It's got to start from what is your packaging made out of? How much can you reduce the packaging to product ratio so that you reduce the amount of weight that you're transporting around?
Which reduces the fossil fuel
Yeah,
usage
absolutely.
as well. That's
Yeah.
everything. It's like looking at all these.
Yeah.
Because you've got lots of trucks, you've got a lot of distribution network
Yeah.
going, so every gram.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so when you really need to look at the types of materials you're using, how much recycled content can you integrate into that? Like there's industry bodies now that you can sign up to as a business, a food manufacturing business. It's a voluntary thing, but a lot of businesses are trying to sign up to. It's called APCO, and it's about trying to take the industry forward in terms of packaging and improving the packaging in the industry, and their focus really is on reducing weight, so reducing the amount of packaging, making sure that the packaging is recyclable. It's got the most recycled content it can possibly have, and also where possible that you're using renewable materials. There's certainly a big focus in the FMCG industry, and rightly so. It's time for change. We recognise that, and so do consumers. So we're just pushing as hard as we can to make sure that ultimately our industry is sustainable, because if we're not moving forward with packaging, with farming processes, with transport, everything, then we're not going to be sustainable as an industry, economically, environmentally.
And do you feel like
things.
I guess you're kind of trying to pioneer that, you're trying to push that forward and really
100%. We have to push the envelope as much as possible. Like we're constantly trying to push our suppliers to have the best that's globally available. And it is something you have to push. Like it's not easy, and you quite often you then bear the brunt of having to do all the trials and getting things certified, but it's something it's important.
Yeah. And I guess because there's so many areas to look at, there's the the resources, there's things like fuel, packaging, weight to packaging. You've got supply chain you talked about. Also that the processing, how you're processing your content and products. And then obviously farmers as well. You looked at supply chain and farmers and sourcing of ingredients. How far down that journey are you guys? Like, is there a long way to go?
Yeah, there's a long way to go. There's a long way to go. And we do materiality assessments, which basically look at all the facets of sustainability from like your social responsibility, your engagement with the community. How do you help educate people about sustainability, about the nutrition of dairy, about packaging, recycling? How do we work with our farmers to make sure that they're doing everything they can to come on the journey to reduce their the intensity of their emissions? So maybe planting trees might reduce the intensity, and then also how much can they reduce their emissions, and also how can they then offset those. It's a process, it's a journey.
It's ongoing.
It's ongoing, and
forever ongoing.
It's forever ongoing, and it's something that we're very, very focused on. We know that we've got a lot to do. We're really humble about that, but we're trying to do what we can as soon as we can. And I think it's those baby steps. You've just got to start taking them in order to start moving forward.
And what's fascinating about this is that often you'll have big companies and brands and corporations, and if you look at the sustainable element of it, it's like sometimes it feels like it's a box that's got to be ticked, right? Like, oh, we've got to do this environmental thing. But I think what you're illustrating here is that this is really part of it's got to be embedded within the organisation, and it's a forever thing, and an industry thing, right?
Yeah.
And you're looking at it across the whole spectrum, which is really fascinating. So,
and all businesses are going to have to start doing that. It's the only way that we're going to move forward. And we're certainly not standing up on our high horses saying that we are, the best, but at the same time, we are just trying to take the steps that we can, and every little bit counts. And, you know, if it's sustainable content in your packaging, if it's lightweighting, if it's, you know, reducing your waste in your factories and making sure that everything gets recycled, reducing your water usage, reducing your energy consumption, all of those things. Like it's a journey. Reduce first, then offset. You know, it's something that we're working really hard at.
And I liked how you mentioned education with the community, because that's like
100%.
an ongoing thing, and that's an ongoing investment too.
Yeah, and I mentioned our school tours earlier, which are part of our kind of community sort of pillar, and that's an amazing platform for us to communicate to school children. We see about 8,000 school children a year here in WA with our school tours program.
Wow.
Part of that program, it's a curriculum linked program. We see primary school children mainly, and part of that program is talking about sustainability and how important it is, communicating about dairy nutrition and the nutrition of food in general, and, you know, making sure that you're ensuring you have that balanced diet. Yeah, so it's a great platform for us.
Yeah, and I guess that rolls into, I guess, how the brand and the business is evolving. You have more of a future focus outlook, because you've been around for quite a long time.
Yeah, we've been around for a long time, since 1886.
1886 business. But I guess the thing is that just because you're 1886, you know, started back then.
Yeah.
I guess it shows these are the reasons why you've lasted so long, because you've always had to evolve and adapt and be more future focused.
Yeah, and we're hoping that we'll be around in another 135 years. So if we want to be around, we have to be economically sustainable, we have to be environmentally sustainable, we have to make sure that we're socially responsible. We source all of our products ethically, and that we are, you know, delivering nutritious products to the community.
Yeah, and you mentioned, like, you know, if you want to be around, I guess, for another 100 plus years, I guess that's where we go into the next bit, which is around the consumer's intent now, and how that's changed, right? Like, it's evolved. I think there was a stat where about 90% of consumers are concerned about the environment, right? So we have to, I guess, help them to feel like they are contributing towards it.
So people are concerned about them. 90% of consumers are concerned about the environment. They want to feel like they're doing something to help the environment. But, you know, it is a really confusing area, and I think there's a lot of consumers with anxiety about what it is they actually need to do. They don't know how to reduce their emissions or reduce their environmental impact. So they're looking to government and to brands to help them on the journey, and to see what they can do, and giving sustainable options to choose from. You know, helps with that anxiety that consumers are feeling.
And as an agency, we do work in that startup space where you do have like new emerging products and things like that. And I guess it's integral for your strategy, because you are a big brand, you've been around for a while, but you don't want to be left behind.
No,
right?
And, you know, we're a family brand, and families are particularly focused on sustainability, right? Because they've got kids, they want the planet to be beautiful for their own children. And they want it to be better. You know, let's try and be better tomorrow than we are today.
Fantastic. And talk to me about like the manufacturing component. You know, what's the plans for the range? Is there anything that you can share in terms of what's coming into the market or currently on the market at the moment?
So there's probably the key things that I'm able to share are, you know, the packaging components. So we've moved to fully renewable unbleached cartons, which when you look at them on shelf, they're very impactful because they're brown, the unbleached component, and they instantly say, I'm environmentally friendly to people. So we launched those in March this year. We've got the 100% recycled plastic bottles that have come out with the chill
So these
range.
are some of the products.
These are some of the products here. Yeah. So the plastic those bottles are made out of is 100% recycled plastic bottles. And
these ones here.
yeah. So, which is just great, right? Like we need to make sure that if we're making plastic, that we're not, we're using as much recycled content as we can. And then we've got the yogurt tubs, which are, again, they have a percentage of recycled plastic in them. It's ocean-bound plastic, which means that it's plastic that's collected that would have otherwise ended up in our oceans. And obviously, nobody wants to go down and see plastic bags in the ocean. And they're also fully recyclable. We're moving away from a tub. Like, our tubs were recyclable, but you had to separate things in our old tubs, which I think it just is another step for consumers to make it a little bit harder. And we want to make it as easy as possible for people to recycle.
Yep. So I guess that's the end goal, is like, obviously you want to make it attractive and have that environmental feel from a brand perspective.
Yeah.
But they are actually things that are quite tangible, like you said, unbleaching.
Yeah.
A lot of times people just think, oh yeah,
you
it's
can
brown.
see it and feel it, and you can see by looking at it that
but it's
better.
functional as well for the consumer
100%.
to
And it's
recycle.
a format that people know and they're used to. I think that's important too. With change, it's important to take people on a journey but keep some familiarity. It's easy for people to make this transition from a carton just to a carton that looks slightly different because they were using it anyway. So, yeah.
And have you had much feedback from the
Yeah,
community on these products?
Yeah, we've had heaps of feedback. We've actually won loads and loads of awards too, like international food and beverage awards. Last week we won a Sustainability Initiative Award through the Pinnacle Awards. We've also won the National sort of Packaging Awards. We've entered now the global awards for that. So it's been incredible, the response actually. And that was just for the cartons. So we've got a lot more stuff that we're doing now with the recycled content across our brands. And yeah, it's just exciting to be able to start that. And there's more to come.
Yeah, and do you feel like you're sort of setting the standard now? Like other brands, FMCG brands, are like looking at you guys going, well, look, if you guys, we can do this.
Yeah,
Like,
certainly in the dairy industry, there's not a lot of companies that are really charging forward with this. And I mean, there's companies that are doing stuff in other areas, and like I say, it's such a big and broad area that you need to look at. So packaging is only one part of it, and the great news is that there's lots of different organisations across the industry looking at different areas, which will push all of us to move with them. So we might push packaging, but then another company might be pushing a different area, and we can take and share their ideas. And it is definitely through this APCO group that's been set up. It is about ideas sharing. It's about trying to make sure as an industry we move forward. Dairy Australia is also pushing as an industry for all of us to move forward and to try. We all know that we need to move. And
like, I mean, you guys are a big machine. You've got so many different categories. Right? You've got milk, you've got the flavoured chocolate milk, you've got yogurt and desserts and things like that.
Cheese.
Cheese and then whereas other brands just have one, maybe they specialise in yogurt or whatever.
Yeah.
So you guys are really having to look at all the different types of
we
components.
are.
So it's
we are looking at lots of different components, and and the other big challenge I think in sustainability is the infrastructure here in Australia in terms of the collection and recycling and reusing. There was obviously a lot of hype in the media about stockpiling recently of the soft plastics. Which we just, at the moment, as a nation, we are still getting our infrastructure up and running to recycle products. And it's getting there, but it's a slow process. I think we'll find that in the next couple of years we'll see a really big shift in how much recycling is going on and how much more progress there'll be in terms of the types of packaging and the recycled content and all those sorts of things that we'll see, because the industry is now to the point where the infrastructure is starting to sort of catch up.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you're expecting new technologies, new maybe things
new
coming
technologies. And that, you know, like for instance, cartons are now being made into building products, so like a chipboard type stuff that you can use as a bench top or make desks out of.
Yeah, right.
You
Physical structure,
and
right.
so we need to then drive demand for those sorts of products to make sure that, you know, we continue to have somewhere to recycle our products. So it's exciting actually. We're doing some renovations at our school tours room where the kids come and visit, and we're going to have our recycled board that the cartons are made out of will be the bench top. So it's a really tactile board that's got lots of different colours in it, so it'll be great for the kids to be able to see that. And you know, you can really take them on a journey and show them something tactile and real and tangible
that they can touch and feel.
Which is, you know, when you're talking to kids, something that's tangible is really important.
But I like it. It's interesting, and you're really looking at it from end to end. You know, like you've got
100%.
You've got the volume really, and you've got that distribution, and looking at logistics as well. So you're moving, producing, creating a lot of product.
Yeah, we are.
So, you know,
and we need to and you know, you have to focus on when we look at the consumer journey, we look at like obviously what's driving awareness, what's driving consideration, what's going to drive their purchase, what's, you know, how can we then, what are they then doing after that to reconsider and then to repeat that purchase. So when people are moving along that kind of life cycle of a purchase and repeat, then you need to look at all the points at which you're touching them. And some of them are digital and some of them are physical. And what we need to do is make sure that we've got our, you know, consistent messaging throughout all of those.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's a great sort of point to get to, which is that consumer journey.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about that and expand, because that's your
Yeah.
area of expertise.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So this is where we go into the marketing.
This is where we go into the marketing. So obviously consumer touch points have changed a lot in the last sort of 20 years, really, in terms of, you know, traditionally you really, in terms of raising awareness, you were on TV, maybe radio, you might have done some newspaper ads or something like that.
One-way communication.
Yeah, one-way communication, and the touch points were very much sort of, they were quite physical, whereas now there's all these digital touch points, I guess, and they help us to raise awareness, and that might be, you know, through social media, whether it's ours or customer social media or anything like that. We also obviously use some traditional channels. TV and video consumption obviously is really different now to what it was even 3 years ago, like in terms of the way people watch TV, the way people consume video media is really different and constantly changing.
It's like they're almost like distracted, aren't they? Like people are often, the telly's on, but then they're on the phone. And
they might have 3 devices running at the one time. I've got my iPad, my phone, the TV, but the TV's a smart TV, so I'm switching. And, you know, I'm not just sitting down and watching the news and, I've got to sit through this because I can't switch it over. Like, people are, you know, they're getting their attention is difficult now. So I guess, you know, it's about being a bit creative to drive your awareness, you know, and it might be, I recently was a judge actually in the Advertising Agency of the Year Awards, and, you know, that some of the submissions was incredible. Like, you know, it's not just TVCs, it's podcasts as well, like where you've got this captive audience. It's amazing how you can talk to them. It's, you know, it's TED Talks. It's so many different ways now that you can talk to people and raise awareness. It's also, like you said, it's PR. Like, it's things like sustainability awards and coming up with new packaging ideas that then make it into news channels that might be communicated out to people.
Branding itself, because that's
100%.
Positioning your brand.
Absolutely, it's positioning your brand based on the values that you want to make sure that you're known and loved for, because we have to think of a brand as it's like a friend or a person that you want to be associated with, right? And that's what helps you buy into them. And then, you sort of move through down the line from awareness through to consideration. And again, like you say, it's things like it's the packaging. They might see it on shelf and think, oh, yeah, that looks nice. Or, they've seen it in the catalogue for the supermarket, or they've got an EDM saying, we've got a Milko special on this. Then you go through your trial and they experience the product. And that's where, product quality is absolutely essential, because you can do everything in the world to get people's awareness, make them pick up the product, but if they try it and they don't like it, you're never getting them back. So for us, quality is everything. Flavour is everything. And, I'm really proud to say that we love the products that we make.
We have
big fridges at work, and they get cleaned out in a day, because everyone we love eating our products and we love consuming them. Everyone loves what we make.
And do you find, I guess it's because there's a lot of new emerging products now coming through, brands, and there's different types of milk now. There's almond milk, and then there's oat, and all this sort of stuff. Do you find that consumers obviously do pivot, and they do purchase, but then are they coming back?
I think there's a broader repertoire now for consumers. So I think the days of when you bought a 3 litre milk and everybody drank the same one, there's not that many families that do that now.
Or when you used to go to the coffee shop and just say, can I have milk or no milk?
Can I have a latte? And that was it. There was no other choice. Now, people tend to buy a slightly smaller pack size, and they might buy a lactose-free for me, and then you want extra creamy because you have it in your coffee, and then your son wants to have, I don't know, something else. He might just have almond milk, or for whatever reason. It's everyone drinks something different, and so now you find, the fridge has got quite a few different variants. Which, it's good that people like variety. I mean, there's still a really strong demand for fresh, natural white milk. It's nutritionally amazing. It's great for protein. It's great for hydration. It's great for calcium. There's so many benefits to it. It's fresh, it's natural.
Yeah, and you talked about the consideration phase, from a marketing standpoint, because that's, I guess now, as consumers pivot and they try different types of milk, that's where education is really important, right?
Yeah.
So I guess you have been doing a lot of work around that space.
Yeah.
Especially with online content.
Yeah.
And things like that.
So we try and work with Dairy Australia as much as we can to push the nutrition of dairy, and just educate people about it. But it's a really tough area, because, reading these nutritional panels that are on the side of the carton, that's challenging for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people don't know how to read a nutritional panel. They don't really know what it's telling them. And they might zero in on certain things but not others. So, obviously there's a big focus on sugar at the moment, and rightly so, like, it's important. But there's so many more things you need to look at in a nutritional panel to make sure. And, is it sugar that's been added, or is it sugar that's naturally
like additives
occurring?
And things like that. Yeah.
So it's a broad area. It's something that we're trying to communicate. Obviously, from our perspective, we try to improve our products as much as we can without sacrificing the enjoyment of the products and the flavour. We make them as natural as we possibly can, reduce the additives as much as we possibly can. Yeah,
and so there's that re-education process, I guess. Your packages are looking different as well. From a consumer touch point perspective. PR is also really important.
PR is important, and also just the layers of your marketing messaging, right? So, digital layers, there's QR codes on pack now, there's social media, there's just different layers that help build the story. And I think whenever a brand campaign or a communications campaign is done now, there's always layers to that campaign, that every layer has a different purpose and may convey like a slightly different message, but still running down the same thread. So all of those layers are important, and just to make sure that your brand comes out with this nice personality, I guess. Yeah.
And is there any sort of new sort of digital initiatives that you've kind of introduced in the last, 6 to 12 months?
Look, we've still continued with our Milko service. We have things like, and digital is a really big part of the business, obviously. So we have that e-commerce platform. We also have booking services for our school tours. We have communication with our customers. We have, because we have the school tours and we run like consumer promos, things like that, obviously direct communication with the consumers is now possible, EDMs, things like that. There's digital is, I guess I don't even think about it anymore. It's such an important part of the business, and it's so ingrained, and there's so many parts of the business that now rely on it that
it's almost not seen as like a separate thing.
It's not a separate thing.
It's part of the business.
It's totally part of the business, and it's an enabler. It's an enabler for many different areas, and that might be placing orders, it might be communication, it might be a feedback loop with consumers, it might be communicating with customers, the way we get our data from our customers about our sales and how we're performing. It's on so many levels, an enabler for the business.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I just sort of wrote an article last week, put it on LinkedIn. It was just around, the trends for next year. And there just seems to be a lot of shift towards this impulse buying and quickness of checkout systems and things like that. So I think the less friction there is for consumers online, because they just want to get what they want, and they see something that they like, and then that's the best opportunity to convert. So that's been a big thing. And then obviously looking at people are doing a lot of research, which is video based now. Versus what they used to do before, which is just Google information and read. Now they want to actually watch videos around things like that. And TikTok and YouTube and all that.
Yeah, and that's, we try and do quite a bit of PR videoing. When we launch something new, we'll make sure that we have a PR story that goes with it. Quite often, we get on the news and, stories are made from that. So we try and keep those available so that when consumers want to come and find information, it's there for them to find. You quite often see our CEO out there talking to the media, and if you want to find that story, it's there to find. Because people want to find the story and understand it, and the people behind the brand, and we're just mums and dads working at
your family.
100%.
No, I love that. Lovely. Okay, well, I think that sort of covers all the topics for today. Thanks, Jacqui, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And is there anything you want to say in regards to how people can find you? Is it like LinkedIn?
You can find me and Brown's Dairy on LinkedIn. You'll be able to find Brown's certainly on Facebook and Instagram. We've also got our website, and you can absolutely order our products if you live in WA through our Milko service.
Awesome, fantastic. Thanks again for coming on the show, and thanks to everyone for listening. Please do subscribe and leave some comments if you've got any questions. But thanks everyone. That's the end of the podcast. Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you. All good?
Oh yeah. I feel like I'm just banging on.
No, you were really good.